everybody. It's Jeff Antoniuk from Jazzwire. Welcome. We've got a great guided listening for you today. We're going to be listening to a beautiful, really important song written by Wayne Shorter. It's called Infant Eyes, and it's off the Speak No Evil album, one of the real masterpiece albums in the history of jazz. And like I said, what I consider to be an incredibly beautiful tune and a cool performance. I've been thinking about this tune because we're working on it inside Jazzwire right now. One of our 3 communities, the more advanced blue community, is working on this tune because, yeah, it's a more advanced tune. We're going to hear a very subdued performance of it here, but the harmony, there's a lot going on, the phrasing, et cetera, et cetera. So if you'd like to check out what's going to end up being 3 lessons, 3 weeks in a row, take the free trial. You can come in and see everything that's going on inside Jazzwire for 30 days. Check out the communications, how all of these folks from around the world are working together to make themselves better. It's not just, here's a bunch of information, go off on your own, good luck to you. It's all about working together. That's how every music school on earth works. That's how every college and conservatory works. They don't give you a textbook and say, see you in 4 days or 4 years. Doesn't work that way. And so much jazz education online works that way. And by using the word work, it doesn't really work. Yeah, so come check out the free trial. So, Infant Eyes. First off, the form is kind of different. It's an ABA form. So there's something different, then the first thing comes back, ABA. And the sections are 9 measures long each. So I've played with really advanced adult students. They get all wound up in a 9-measure phrase because we're so used to 4 and 8-measure phrases. So being really conscious of that for one, and we have to practice that, right? It's just different than what we're used to. So we're going to listen to this. So we have Herbie Hancock, you hear a bit of him out front, bit of a solo. We have Wayne Shorter, of course, on tenor saxophone, Ron Carter on the bass, Elvin Jones on drums. And hearing these folks play this tune, I would love to know, I'm sure somebody out there knows the history of this. Did they get to rehearse this much? Had they ever played it at all? Were they sight reading it in the studio? That sort of thing happened plenty. Now, these musicians played together plenty, but that would be, a pretty fascinating thing to know. And before we jump in, I do want to say something. We just finished up the Jazzwire Summer Summit, the workshop here in Washington, D.C. We have our Canadian Summit that's going to be an annual thing every June in Western Canada, Edmonton, Alberta. So we're looking at a couple places. We're looking at some place on the West Coast. We're looking at some place in the middle part of the country to create another workshop. We're also looking at Italy. So where would you like us to do a workshop? And what we're looking for is a great venue to host the workshop. And of course, we're looking for folks in that area who would be interested in that area to come and attend, or an area that would attract folks to come to. So I'd love to know your ideas and get your help on where you think we should found our next summer summit. Well, not summer, it could be winter too, right? So we have the summer summits, but we're looking for a couple November through February kind of spots too, to be hosting something. So give me your ideas, leave them in the comments here, and I'll see if I can get to work on it. Okay, let's jump into Infant Eyes, and we'll take it from there. Herbie Hancock. So as I was listening to this morning, I couldn't remember, is it McCoy Tyner or Herbie? But the language isn't McCoy, really, in this intro and then later in the tune. So yeah, I could kind of tell, yeah, that's Herbie. And so now, that 2-note pickup, octave, none of the lead sheets have that written in, those octaves, and it's kind of cool. We hear that from Wayne as he plays the melody and in his solo, some wider intervals, but specifically octaves. Kind of a cool thing to do that we don't actually hear that much. So listen to Elvin Jones on the drums. What's going on there? So brushes, hi-hat on 2 and 4. Very subdued, right? And in this spot, there's a pedal bass note for 2 measures, 3 measures, and then it moves away. So a cool little 3-measure pedal in the chord changes, and it's cool to hear how Ron approaches that each time. So we're coming to the end of our second 9-measure phrase, 8. Here's our 9th measure. Here's the last A. And so it's interesting that we didn't hear Elvin do anything about highlighting the form. Ron did this cool bass kind of slur or a glissando into the note, which kind of highlighted the form a little bit. But Elvin is playing really subdued, and it's kind of cool to hear him playing back behind Ron too, especially in the piano solo. We can hear how he's putting everything really deliberately back on the beat. Ron is a little further ahead. You can hear them apart. It's interesting. Some vibrato. So we're going to listen to that too. So this is Wayne's solo. Listen to his note endings. So definitely lots of long notes and tapering. So he'll hold a note and he'll taper it down to almost nothing, which is hard to do. Often no vibrato, but sometimes with vibrato. So he's not being consistent, which is fine. Little vibrato there. No vibrato there. No vibrato up on that high note. So that's an interesting thing. And for some of the more advanced players in Jazzwire, we're talking about that, especially on horns, of course, because we can control the end of the note, unlike on bass, guitar, piano, drums, where we have a natural sustain. On a horn, we have to create a natural sustain, and we can choose to add vibrato. But jazz is a very historical and conservative music in that there's sort of a way to do it that sounds natural and a whole lot of ways to do things that does not swing, does not sound natural, sounds weird. So paying attention to those things, some of your favorite players, is a good idea. Some of those octaves and wider intervals. I love that little moment there of Wayne ascending in mostly half steps, but not entirely. It's something Wayne does a lot, where he's just wiggling his way up. I think the notes he's playing are going to defy analysis. Oh, he's playing a sharp 9. Oh, he's playing a flat 9. I don't think it's that. I was actually listening to Steely Dan, Asia, and he plays a great solo at the end of that. And he does some of that playing 12 years after this recording, playing with Steely Dan. So that's a Wayne thing that I kind of dig. So listen to here to Elvin and Ron. You can hear Ron's notes are all before Elvin's. It's very interesting. Is Elvin trying to hold the tempo back? There again, every single downbeat, they're kind of apart, but it's not a bad apart. I guess there's nothing Elvin and Ron Carter can do that is gonna sound bad. And they play together a lot. So it's kind of cool. So we heard a short little 8 measures, first A section from Herbie Hancock. Now Wayne comes in on the second A section, the bridge. And we have just one 9-measure section left coming up. Here's the 8th measure of the bridge, and it gets sustained harmony shift there to a ninth measure. Kind of cool, like in that moment, right at the end of that measure, how Ron did some fills, and I can't remember if it was a triplet-based fill. I think it was. I don't think it was 16th notes. I think that's the first symbol, by the way, we hear in the entire song. So listening back and hearing how the rhythm section is helping create the feel and the time. Because in general, Ron is playing whole note, 2, 3, 4, whole note on the bass. That's the underlying speed and pace that things are going at. And then he embellishes those whole notes. But that's the way to think about it. He's not playing all eighth notes and leaving some out. That's the wrong way to think about this. He's playing whole notes, maybe half notes at times, and adding to those, moving into the next whole note, moving through the next half note. So it's a good way to conceptualize it. And his pace, is he filling with eighth notes or eighth note triplets? Is he filling with triplets or 16th notes? If he's filling with 16th notes, are they swinging or are they straight? All of that is hugely important because Herbie is also comping and playing moving lines. And how are his fills working? So if we have Ron filling entirely with swung triplets and Herbie filling entirely with straight 16th notes, it could sound like a bit of a mess, right? So these folks are listening to each other, whether it's a conscious thing or whether subconsciously, they're just hearing how this is flowing and they get with the flow. Probably a lot of that. But this is good stuff to listen to and analyze and sort of notice. And sure, are there going to be moments when somebody decides, oh, I'm going to do a triplet thing, and at the same time, the other guy thinks, ooh, I'm going to do a 16th thing. And is it a clash? Is it interesting? Well, all of those are possible, right? So, yes, this is a masterpiece, but is every note on here perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I wouldn't want it to be because perfect, I think, works against something being a masterpiece. So I talked over a lot of that, as I always do, but that's the guided part of guided listening. So please go back and listen to this with some of those ideas. Think about Elvin Jones, one of the strongest, mightiest of all drummers, and how subdued he was here. That's interesting to me. Was that his decision? Was that the producer's decision? Was that Wayne's decision? Was it 3 a.m. and he had just played a 5-hour gig and he was tired? I would love to know. But it sure fit things really well, right? The overall energy of the tune, if there's some scale of 0 to 10, this is like 2. Maybe there's a moment or two when Wayne pushes his sound and it opens up and maybe, so it's not super high energy. Great. That's good. It serves an important place on the album. But these are 3 of the most energetic, powerful, with volume and harmonic concept and phrasing. There's nobody that could hold a candle to these folks, and yet they chose to play in this way. The song's called Infantize, right? So it's just really cool to understand, especially for younger players out there, and I'm still trying to learn this lesson because I'm very young myself, that we don't need to swing for the fences on every solo, on every chorus. In every 4 measures, there doesn't need to be that big moment, right? Because we're learning from the masters that there doesn't necessarily need to be, right? There's so many great lessons in here and so many kind of cool questions that it brings up. The harmony is just a thing. So that's what we're going to be talking about for 3 weeks. How do we navigate these chords, so many of which aren't functional, in that it's obviously, oh, here's a cadence 5-1, or here's 4-1, or this is a tritone sub. No, we have to think differently about this tune. And we are. So as I said, please join us for the 30-day free trial. If you aren't already a Jazzwire member, we'd love to get you in. In the last month and a half, we've had about 150 people inside the free trial. So I'd love for you to be one of them. Check out what we're doing and join us for the rest of the year and take your playing to another level. Let's talk about Wayne Shorter. All right, everybody. Have a great week. I'll see you here next week.